One of my favorite stations is PBS. I always like PBS. And they have great shows, Democracy Now!, World News, and their news is, I've always thought, been on spot. Lately, I've noticed that, well, you notice it a whole lot right away when you know what the truth is, that you see these newscasters doing things or saying things that are just not true. And I've been pointing this out for quite some time. The news media is lying to you, and so once you learn the truth and you know the truth, then you can see, and right now is the best time to point this out. So, this is a show from PBS. I think it aired like 2 hours ago.
Cracked last night, but it didn't break. But we are seeing a real threat to everything we believe in. What you are seeing in this country right now is an effort to say we only want to count the votes of people who agree with us.
President-elect Biden won Michigan and Wisconsin, plus Georgia.
All right, so they lied. That's a lie. I mean, this is one of the things, the narratives that most all the medias are saying. The first lie is that President-elect Joe Biden won. He hasn't won. It's in the courts, so there's no winner right now. So that is a lie. And whenever you hear it, remind yourself that they are lying to you at this moment. They don't want you to know the truth. They don't think you can handle it. They don't think you're smart enough to handle the truth. And this is the way they work. The other guy, he said that the Republicans or the people filing their lawsuits only want to get the votes that of people who agree with them. That's not true. That is a lie. They want every legal vote counted. That is the truth. And there's a lot going on, a lot of hanky-panky going on, so I'm sure hopefully the mainstream media will cover the truth someday and get on board with what the truth is and what could happen. They should tell you what could happen. I have told you what could happen. Right now it's in the courts, and it could go either way. There's no winner. Remember that.
Number that should basically double check the work to verify that we've isolated the issue to this precinct in early voting.
So would that have been like a human error, the lack of votes, or would it have been an issue with the software?
Well, we don't know yet. They're still looking into that. So basically what we believe happened at this point is the scanner in the actual early voting room went down at some point. And so those ballots had to be removed and then scanned in a different scanner. And of those, let's say approximately 5,000 that needed to be rescanned, about 2,700 of them were not rescanned. So we don't know if that was an issue with the software not accepting properly scanned ballots, or whether that was human error and that the election workers just didn't scan 2,700 of them. So we hope to find that out. There's some tech workers here today. They're going to dig into the system, and we're going to
from Dominion.
I think so.
Yeah, that's what they said earlier. Okay, well, thank you so much, and we'll have another update soon.
No problem.
Do we have a explanation of why those votes?
So there's no like concrete, just to get it on the record, there's no concrete explanation as to how those 2,700 votes were not counted by the machine in the first place?
We don't know. I mean, we can't. They're not in there anywhere. So we don't know why they didn't get scanned in there.
So have the Dominion tech guys that have been troubleshooting here all day been able to figure out why they weren't in there?
Them, but I don't know if I can speak for them. They're not allowed to comment.
They're not allowed to comment.
And you're not allowed to tell anything.
Sorry.
It just.
But as of right now, you can also not confirm that it was a memory card or anything of that nature as well, right? Because that hasn't been confirmed, to my knowledge, by anyone here.
I don't think it was a memory card. I can almost. Do you?
I don't think it was a memory card.
So it was, we can rule out memory
Rule out a
card.
memory card that wasn't
Yeah, I
scanned.
mean, okay, it seems like it's human error.
It
but
seems like it, but what's the evidence that would indicate it would be a human error issue?
the ballots didn't transfer over like they should have, and that could have been dealing with how whatever programmer programmed them. But at this point, we really don't know, so that's why you're
Could it
getting-
also potentially be a software
We're
issue?
not going to speculate at this point.
But you just said it could potentially be a
Again,
human error. That was
you're touching-
speculation.
Correct. So that's why you're
So then
asking
it
all
could-
these types of different questions.
I'm
We
just
really
trying to
can't
get-
give you any. I know what
okay,
you're trying to do.
yeah.
And we really don't have it pinpointed
Okay.
right now. Like
That's fine.
we want to be able to give you the exact answer on what happened.
Absolutely.
I'm not able to do that.
Okay. Right. Fair enough. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
The election system in this country is screwed up. It needs to be fixed. It should be the same in every state. It should be regulated. It shouldn't leave the state or nobody can have access to it. We need to secure the votes so that we can trust it, right? Otherwise, this will happen. So the question is the media lying causing the violence? What is causing the violence? Why is there so much hate on the streets?
I just want to let you know that. You got off and you put paws on somebody, then you feel like a bigger man. You know what I'm saying?
Switch around, we gotta go in front of Trump Tower. Let's go. You guys out of the bathroom, let's go. Let's go. Street's closed, let's go. Everyone out.
Black Lives Matter in lowercase, all for it. Black lives do matter. But when you capitalize these letters, it's the organization. The organization is absolutely a Marxist, domestic, terrorist organization.
What I'm going to do is play some more videos. So this is the official warning. I'm going to play some videos from people from some of the clashes. Are we heading towards a civil war?
Tell the racists, the Klan, that Black Lives Matter.
All lives are not getting shot in their back. All lives is not getting killed in police custody. All lives is not getting discriminated against.
R.I.P. George Floyd. We outside. R.I.P. George Floyd.
Ugly scenes on the streets of New York as a Jews for Trump rally descends into violence. A convoy of vehicles flying the flag for the president drove through the city. Some stopped their cars to showcase their rap skills. Others vocal in their support for Trump.
We're on the street. Look at the cars. Look at the support, Mr. President. We're coming out for you big time. We're going to win this election hands down. We're going to tell de Blasio, our governor, we're going to teach this city what to do. Everybody, we love you. This is great. Everybody's going to be peaceful. Everybody's going to be not violent.
But they came under attack from counter-protesters in the street. A stone thrower on a bridge, a man films himself hurling eggs.
I got a bunch of these, baby. I got a bunch of them.
And a woman is arrested for using pepper spray. The Jews for Trump members were making their way to this rally in Marine Park, Brooklyn.
Of this country!
Trump, meanwhile, staged his rallies in North Carolina and New Hampshire. And he was again upbeat on COVID, despite the US setting a daily record of 83,000 new cases on Friday.
If we cut our testing down in half, they'd say, well, they wouldn't say that, but cases would go down in half.
One who has a corpse-like appearance, exhibits aggressive behavior, craves human flesh, and utters incoherent moans and groans.
I don't know.
This dramatic image captures the moment right before the gunshot. Police say that the man on the left used pepper spray on the man on the right, who then appears to draw a firearm and then fatally shoots the man spraying him. The suspect, identified as a security guard hired to protect a local news crew. ABC's Clayton Sandell has more.
Tonight, new questions about a security guard hired by a local TV station, now under investigation for first-degree murder. After a deadly shooting following protests that had been mostly peaceful. It happened as groups from the far right and far left had gathered for competing rallies Saturday in downtown Denver. Lee Keltner, in the camouflage hat, is seen arguing with a man before moving out of frame. Denver Post photojournalist Helen Richardson capturing the moment Keltner and another man, 30-year-old Matthew Doloff, get physical. It escalates immediately. Keltner appears to slap Doloff, who draws a gun. Keltner unleashing a cloud of pepper spray. Then that single shot. Keltner is fatally wounded.
I don't know why he went from one argument to another. This all happened in 2 seconds. I didn't go to this event ever in my life expecting this to happen. It's just sad that someone lost their life over this.
Police rush in seconds later, taking Doloff into custody. TV station KUSA says Doloff was working for them, but the city of Denver says he was not properly registered as a security guard. KUSA says Doloff was hired through the Pinkerton agency, but Pinkerton says Doloff was not an employee and worked for an outside vendor. The company says it's fully cooperating with the investigation, and we take loss of life in any situation very seriously.
This may look like the US Army is on the streets, but in fact these are militiamen with their own alarming agenda. We were witnesses to this extraordinary development. A major US city in the hands of self-confident and heavily armed militias, with police and civic leaders nowhere to be seen. It was a brazen show of strength, with an unmistakable message that there are new sheriffs in town.
Rioting and burning and looting is not going to answer that question.
Angry Viking is a militia commander who told me he wants dialogue.
And we're here just to protect the building. That's it. And we're here to do this. Meet and talk.
You was gonna allow it to happen.
But that dialogue quickly descended into furious arguments. Black Lives Matter activists, who have held a vigil here for 100 days, say the militias are a pure provocation.
Tired, exhausted, worn out. What else do you want me to say?
Do you think it'll end up as a fight?
Yes. People are going to die, bro. People are going to die. I don't know who's going to be.
Which militia are you from?
Many of these disparate groups,
which militia are you from?
Had no interest in identifying themselves.
Excuse me, sir. Which militia are you from?
We are all Americans here. We're all Americans here. We're all here for the same. We're all here actually against you. Is what we're here against.
We're all here against you. That's what he said. What do you think that means? I think subconsciously, people realize that all the lying on the media is causing a lot of this. You know, after 4 years of saying somebody's stupid, it doesn't matter if it's Einstein, everybody's going to believe he's stupid. Conditional reflex theory, Pavlov. It's a psychological and emotional response to a physical stimulus. Stimulus is the word Trump. And, you know, I don't know. Well, if you knew, study Pavlov, okay?
Recipe for confusion on the streets of Louisville and potentially for chaos.
I'm not going to bring a knife to a gunfight, sir.
And here's the danger. Americans are arming up. Nadia Ford, a grandmother, arrived here with multiple weapons to confront the white militia.
We've tried peaceful for years upon years, and it has gotten us nowhere. They murder us, they murder us, they murder us, they murder us for being peaceful. So only when we stand up do they maybe take us seriously. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to stand up against this hate in America.
Out the back of my brains and they'll find out where I live, etc., etc.
But where is America that a lawyer has to walk the streets with body armor, a pistol, and a long arm?
Thank you. Well, because I'm going to defend myself and I'm not going to be shot down in the streets.
When I move you to the street, you will load your weapon.
A few miles up the road, we saw a whole new phenomenon.
Y'all say you soldiers?
An African-American militia with hundreds of troops. They have a black nationalist agenda.
Hand on the shoulder of the person in front of you.
It's as much a cult as a military formation. This is the NFAC militia. It is well organized and quasi-military. It also proves a militia does not have to be white and right-wing. As hundreds of their armed followers march through a residential suburb,
I'll call in reinforcements.
we glimpse their mysterious leader. Known as Grandmaster Jay, he is a charismatic but enigmatic figure.
Move! Clear out!
Fearing assassination, his bodyguards surround him at every moment.
Jay's moving back, y'all. Jay's moving back.
What is clear is that these militias have a new swagger. While the election campaign gathers pace, other forces are showing they will fill the security void after this long summer of protests and violence. Robert Moore, News at 10, in Louisville, Kentucky.
They are preparing for D-Day, the day they will take up their weapons. The Laurel Highlands Ghost Company.
Gonna be war in the streets, man. Cities are going to burn, cops are going to get killed. I hope it doesn't happen here, man. The only thing we can do is just get ready for the worst. Glock. This here.
Casey Robertson sees a conflict coming. A self-employed father of four, he watched this spring as protests for racial justice spread across the country.
I was nervous about seeing that coming to Utah, absolutely.
And he says he saw a threat to his very way of life.
I grew up in Provo, Utah, very conservative, religious college town. I absolutely love my neighbors. We take care of each other. Everyone watches out for each other. And we just love our way of life here. And we just want to keep our way of life the way it is right now.
The militia movement's been around in the U.S. since at least the mid-1970s. They like to present themselves as people who are arming themselves and getting prepared in various ways, all in an effort to protect their communities that they believe are under threat. The problem with that is what is a situation that goes sideways for them.
Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up!
Protests this year over the police killing of George Floyd have been largely peaceful. But at a Black Lives Matter rally in Provo in June, Robertson thought he saw his fears come true.
The most violent rally they've ever been to.
A driver tore through the crowd. Shots were fired. Details were unclear. But Robertson took action immediately.
I said, nope, I'm not going to just sit here and let this happen. And I just stood up and I went into my computer and I got on Facebook and I said, this is a call to arms. We're going to come down there, come strapped. Practice your Second Amendment.
With that, the Utah Citizens Alarm, or UCA, was born. Its Facebook page quickly racked up thousands of followers. 2 days later, returning protesters were met by scores of armed men.
There were other groups at this protest, armed groups who say they were here to keep peace by not allowing any protesters or anyone else to damage or vandalize property.
We had a hodgepodge, motley crew looking bunch of people. There were no rules, there were no standards, we had no policies and procedures set up. I mean, we had no clue what we were doing other than we were going to go down there and just show. And it worked.
The UCA is one of many armed groups across the country that have made headlines this year by showing up at protests for racial justice. The confrontations have sometimes turned violent, most notably in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where a 17-year-old allegedly shot and killed 2 men in August.
There has been real violence out of this movement just in recent months.
Tensions boiling over as armed men faced off with counter-demonstrators.
I mean, it's completely reasonable to be fearful of a bunch of white men carrying around long guns. This is essentially a far, far right conservative movement, conspiratorial movement, and sometimes very extreme.
It's like that picture of Malcolm X with his gun looking out the window. It's like I get a sense of that feeling, you know, of what he felt.
John Sullivan was an organizer of the Black Lives Matter rally in Provo. A gun rights proponent himself, he is now encouraging his fellow protesters to arm themselves in response.
They need to protect themselves, not to go out and cause trouble, to protect yourselves from people specifically trying to hurt you. It's not because of the police. It's because of these militias that are coming out and harassing us, intimidating us, threatening us. If they really wanted peace, they would not stand in opposition to us. If you want peace, you would stand with us. Simple. If you're for racial equality, you would stand with us. If you're against police brutality, you would stand with us.
I've been called racist, I've been called a white supremacist from day one. They don't even know me, they know nothing about me. It's just this perception. If you show up to protect your community, you're a racist.
Not all self-styled militia groups are made up of white supremacists, but experts argue they are inseparable from America's history of racism.
That's pretty awesome.
The original militia movement in modern America was created on a bedrock of racism and anti-Semitism. It sought to use the idea of political violence as a legitimate form of response to a country that had moved far beyond the days of segregation. The militia movement and the paramilitary organizations, while spouting the idea of being non-racist, seemed to intimidate, threaten, and harass civil rights leaders and civil rights activists of color disproportionately in their activities.
So both sides are arming themselves pretty well. With that many guns, it's hard to believe that somebody isn't going to start shooting. Once one person starts shooting, everyone will start shooting. It's going to happen if they keep this up. Now, when you look at both sides are saying we need to protect ourselves. And that's a good reason. Everybody should be able to protect themselves. And there's no argument there. And there's nothing wrong with speaking your mind in here in America. It's good for you to say what's on your mind. But at some point, somebody's got to be wrong about something. So when, because when they're both saying we need to protect ourselves, that is a legitimate response. It's a legitimate form of response, and so at that point they both feel right. But they're the one group is saying we're going to protect the buildings. The other group is saying what? You don't believe that black people should have equal rights? Yes, they do. Okay, you don't believe that there's systemic, that there's racism in the police force? Well, there may be racist police, but it's not policy to be racist in the police force. There's no systemic racism. It's not an overall thing. It's not encompassing every police force. You just have good people, bad people make mistakes, good people make mistakes. It's very complicated. But there's, is there racists? Probably, yeah. Probably by the race, but they need to learn. Those people need to learn. Now, on the other side, those people need to realize that it's not systemic. But it's just going to keep going. But they're talking, even though it's on the streets and yelling and at least they're talking, right? Let's watch some more.
Far-right groups like the Proud Boys. Why do people care so much about Portland?
Because what happens in Portland trickles down everywhere else. It's inspiring other domestic terrorist organizations and other people to spark up violence in other cities around this country. These people here, these radical leftists, these terrorists, they're inspiring other people to go out and do the same thing they see on TV in Portland. And they think they can treat law enforcement like shit. They think they can run around and live this lawless life, and we're here to say no to that.
We need the shield!
The Proud Boys are a pro-Trump, ultra-nationalist group with chapters across the country. They're known as a far-right street fighting gang.
Get the fuck out of the way, bro! What the fuck is wrong? You want some trouble? You want to pick a fight with the girl?
It seems like a lot of people here came looking for a fight.
Some people are angry, yes, but they all know to keep their hands to themselves.
Do they?
From what I've seen, I haven't seen anything.
Well, there's been some members of the Proud Boys who've been brandishing weapons, who've been threatening people.
Wait,
there was a guy
weapons.
who...
Hold on, what country is this? Oh, yes, it's America. We have the Second Amendment.
Portland has just been a war zone. And all the violence is with these black hooded thugs, Antifa. We have to call it what it is. The Black Lives Matter is a Marxist violent organization, and so is Antifa.
Whose country is this? USA! USA!
This past weekend, around 1,000 Proud Boys and MAGA activists descended on Portland for a rally called End Antifa. Several nearby counter-protests were organized in response. Are you Antifa?
I'm anti-fascist, absolutely.
What does it feel like to be labeled as a terrorist by the president and by a lot of Republican politicians and Fox News?
My coworkers, it's silly. It's really silly because when I'm not in Black Bloc, when I'm in normal work clothes and hanging out with, my coworkers, I can ask them how they feel. A lot of their views are gonna align with me, the dehumanization that they can have. Oh my gosh, look at this, all these guys in Black Bloc, they're domestic terrorists and stuff, and I think it's silly and it hurts my heart. But just come out to this. Come talk to real people and put a real, eye level face to it.
I have a testimony, and it's about holding police accountable in the state of Oregon and around United States of America. I will be traveling the world. I am here to take over where Martin Luther King left off at.
Why do you think that the Proud Boys are these far-right fascists? Why are they targeting Portland?
People are talking about what we're doing here in Portland. And unfortunately, a lot of mainstream media has portrayed us to be violent and has criminalized our protesting and has criminalized us.
Portland has become something of a flashpoint for the Trump-era culture wars. Groups like the Proud Boys say that left-leaning Portland is everything that's wrong with America and regularly come into the city looking to fight local activists. The fault lines that created the Proud Boy versus Antifa showdowns became even more stark after George Floyd's death in May. Portlanders have taken to the street almost every night since. But where progressives see a mostly peaceful and vibrant protest movement in keeping with the spirit of Portland. Why do you think that the whole country seems so captivated by Portland? I mean, it's now been labeled a anarchist jurisdiction by the president.
Yes, we are very proud of the label. I think the reason why the focus has been on Portland is because we won't stop protesting. We go to the street every single night. The only thing that kept Portlanders off the street was when the wildfires had smoke so thick you couldn't breathe outside.
Fuck Antifa! Antifa!
Why do you think these far-right groups are coming into Portland? What do they want?
I think this is a testing ground, right? We proudly protest. We're supposed to make sure that our voice is heard, and our voice should not be stopped because some wannabe dictator has decided that they're going to use us as a model. And now, with 45 in office preaching hate at the highest levels of our country, it has energized folks who traditionally would be in their mom's basement talking that rhetoric.
You know why America's great? We have the Constitution, and you have the right to go out in the street and say anything you want. Isn't that what's great about what's happening right now? The people getting together on the streets like they do in Portland at night and getting together because it's free speech. It's free country. What happens when somebody wants to stop you from speaking? If you're out there for free speech and protesting for free speech, and then you stop someone else from talking, maybe by punching him in the mouth, then aren't you violating what you're protesting for?
That they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do
specifically
that, but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
He did do it. He did it. Yeah, he's done it many times.
They have to stand down, let law enforcement do their work.
But last night was just the latest example of the president's reluctance to clearly rebuke extremist far-right groups.
In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy.
President Trump denounced white supremacy today, said this.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
This is a good example of how they take stuff out of context. When President Trump said on both sides, what he's referring to is there's two groups of people on the issue. There's two groups of people on the issue. On some people on the issue, because there's a third group. There's the troublemakers. But listen, when he was referred to, so actually there's three groups of people. There's the white supremacists, and then there's people on both sides of the issue. That's the point. But that's who Trump was talking about. There's good people on both sides of the issue. The issue being the statute. Because the people in the Civil War in the South are representing their elders. Their ancestors. That's their relatives. That's the people. That's like their great grandma or great grandpa, or a cousin of this guy or that guy. But there were blacks and whites in the war, in the Civil War, who fought the North, and there were blacks and whites who fought down there. Well, the Southerners are just honoring their ancestors, And that's what the rebel flag was about, too, to honor the dead, the people who they were related to. They're just trying to remember their history. There's nothing wrong with that.
No justice! No justice! Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
All lives matter. All lives matter, bro. What's on your mind? What's on your mind? All lives matter. All lives matter.
Out here to be divisive against you guys. We're out here because black people need to stop dying.
You're right.
People need to stop dying.
You're right. And white people need to stop dying too. Everybody needs to stop dying.
Fund the police, real smart. Why don't we come over there and then you see if you call the police? I don't care where you're from. Doesn't mean nothing to me.
Please stop.
Hey, you're the fucking ringleader that set this whole thing.
And Oregon, all at high risk of election-related militia violence. That's according to a study by Militia Watch and the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project.
Rally in California. You see those protesters there, they attacked Trump supporters just after Trump spoke, and ABC's Tom Llamas was there. He's on the scene now in San Jose. Good morning, Tom.
George, this was one of the most violent scenes I have ever witnessed at a Trump rally. At times, it seemed like the police had no control of the situation. People were getting beat up right in front of them. And these were not clashes. These were pure attacks. Trump supporters, men, women, even the elderly, left this building last night and walked right into danger.
Overnight, all-out brawls outside the Trump rally in San Jose, California. Trump supporters harassed, beaten, and bloodied by mobs of protesters.
They were like spitting on me and stuff.
This man says he was sucker punched, his clothes torn off his back.
7 more people just come in, start punching me. I look pretty bad.
This lone female Trump supporter tried to stand her ground. Her sign torn from her hands, her glasses ripped off, then shoved in her face. A woman wearing a Trump jersey cornered and then egged in the face.
Nazis go home!
Fights breaking out in the streets all over the convention. Inside, Trump spoke to a large and welcoming crowd.
We're going to build that wall, don't even think about it.
But outside, protesters accused Trump of being a racist and hunted down the people that support him.
Another fistfight's about to break out right now. A Trump supporter is getting pummeled right now.
That man eventually fighting his way back to police. At another point, protesters followed this couple, violently harassing them, then storming the parking lot where they tried to escape. Protesters shaking cars and smashing taillights. Drivers forced to hit the gas to get out. Police were there, armed in riot gear, but from what we witnessed, reluctant to initially stop or engage the protesters. Then this, a young man running in fear from protesters, then getting tackled before breaking free. We point him to police.
There's a cop over there.
This Trump supporter walking with his wife, spat on, bottles thrown at them, then punches. He says it was the only way he could get out.
Black lives have never, ever, ever mattered to the Democrat Party. Black votes always have.
The Democrat Party have established a house of token niggers. Token niggers.
Democrat Party, they want us to permanently be in a state of fear, racism, white racist Republicans.
They just put a black person in the White House for 8 years. Didn't do anything for us.
Here we go.
Are we such punks that we are so scared to try something different?
The Democrats are very nervous. They do nothing for you, and that was supposed to be automatic. Not anymore.
I'm curious, is this really about the politics? How do we know this is real?
It's legit. You guys have a beautiful home and a lot of family photos.
Yes. A lot of people said that my family was brainwashing me, and that really bothered me.
I've had people that have known me for 7 to 10 years that have texted me and told me that I have a mental illness.
You ready? Moving out.
For my sister at one time to say that you're a traitor.
A traitor to who?
A traitor to my race.
How do y'all feel about black conservatives?
Like, y'all house Negroes. Like, y'all just trying to please this white man.
These are lost, disturbed, self-loathing people.
Notice that all of those youngsters had caps on.
Because I think some people assume this is a play for votes.
Well, I haven't changed, and I'm not gonna change.
Voting for Trump is not about being a Republican.
Make America great again is for us too.
What does it make you feel like when you wear it?
It makes me feel like a proud American.
You have to defend why you voted for Trump.
Hillary Clinton. That's who they wanted us to vote for over Trump.
Just because you are black, you don't have to be a Democrat.
I am a black gay conservative, and I am proud of that.
We have to start moving like free agents.
What we gotta lose?
The people in this room are going to change America.
Trump has been re-elected the United States. USA! 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 Nobody wants to see me. Like, get the out of here. Get out of here.
What is you exposing for real though? What is you exposing for real though? That's why you sweating.
Fireworks, 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 fireworks! Yeah, yeah!
Well, I don't know how it's going to get fixed or if it is going to get fixed. There's a lot of hatred out there. I think, it starts inside you. That's where it starts. Respect for all people. You have to respect everyone. As a matter of fact, God's first law, who is Jesus Christ, said, love God. The first rule, the first law, is to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and to love your neighbor. That's the hard part. So it's going to take some, we may have to take some abuse while we're trying to tell somebody, we love you. You're loved. That's my message right now. You're loved. Don't let this psychology they've pulled on you, if you're with BLM, if you're Antifa, for whatever reason, look and see where that hate originated from, and then take care of it. Get rid of it. You're an American. You're loved. 72 million people voted. No, actually, they're saying about 80 million. Well, let me tell you something. Most of those people are Christian. So you think about the fact that you're loved by at least 80 million Americans, okay? Somebody's gotta stop, man. This is our country. It's the greatest country in the world. We're the leader in freeing people. When slavery was going on back from 1600, it was all over the world. We weren't no different than anyone else in the entire world. But we were the first ones to say no slavery. And Abraham Lincoln said that the 600,000 people that died in the Civil War to free black people from slavery is the atonement for our sin of slavery as a country. We've paid for that sin. Now we're like generations down the road. Only 53% of the black people in this country are related to slaves. And to those people, that's just your history. That was history. Let's focus on the future. You got to visualize a future where everyone loves each other, or at least respects each other. Let's start there. I may not like you, I may not love you, but I can at least respect you, right? Maybe if we had this rule, rule number 1, it's okay to disagree. Just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean it's a license to hate. Think about what you're doing. We need to stop all this. And it may take letting them take a few punches, or it may take us throwing a few punches. But if we don't straighten it out, it's going to go to gunshots. And a lot of people are going to be killed. Then what? I'll continue to bring you news and things that are happening around the country because the media, I'd say probably, has anybody seen any of this on the mainstream media? Unless they're spinning it to make Trump sound bad? Stop listening to the liars. Go out and find stuff that's real, that's true. Don't believe everything you hear. And remember, at least 80 million people love you. Good night. Thanks a lot for watching.